Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Chief Meteorologist Brad Petovich here. It's going to be a hot one today. We do have heat advisories for part of the area, but it's going to be pretty close to just barely getting to heat advisory criteria, which is a heat index of 105. Either way you slice it, it's by far the hottest weather we have seen so far this season. But we're getting also back into a more typical summer thunderstorm pattern. The last couple of days, it's been kind of a tough forecast to track these thunderstorm complexes. A lot of them have been diving to our southwest. Some have been moving off in this direction, but not many have made it down into the Carolinas. Today is going to be more of the scattered late day, afternoon, evening thunderstorms. We've already got some developing in eastern Tennessee, but look at the movement of those. Kind of ironically, they're moving off in this direction. So I would anticipate we're going to see storms develop here and then track in this direction in the heating of the day. You can see there is a front and a low pressure system off to the northwest. That's what we'll be watching for later today to help initiate and kick off some of these strong thunderstorms into the afternoon hours. Let's look at the thunderstorm outlook today. You can still see we're in the medium to low risk, but as the last couple of days, even though the risk for severe weather is medium low, the overall coverage of storms has been really low. This is the kind of scenario where there's not a lot of storms that develop, but the ones that do tend to be producing damaging straight line winds. And that is our primary concern, downburst setup today, even tomorrow and into the 4th of July. And the reason I say that, if we look into the future, I'm going to turn off the radar here real quickly, and we'll turn off some of the other data just so you don't get confused what we're looking at. That's today's severe weather outlook. Let's look at tomorrow's. You could still see we're in the medium to low end range. And then let's look at the 4th of July, and you can still see low. So get used to this. There's going to be scattered storms possible each and every day just because the heat and humidity is going to drive a lot of this. Let's get right to the futurecast. All right, here we are, off and running with the futurecast. We'll go into this afternoon. So if you're going to the pool, the lake after church here, we'll stop this around 5 o'clock. You could see isolated thunderstorm in the foothills, maybe one in northeast Georgia, but this is kind of the timeline. Look at that 5 p.m. and after time frame as we get into the evening hours. Remember, the sun doesn't set till like 8:40, so we've got plenty of heating well into the evening. So sunset, is really closer to 9 o'clock. It's still twilight out, but you see the big storms developing to the west, more isolated to scattered across the Carolinas. As we go into the overnight hours, these storms will try to push in. And again, because of the setup and it's so hot and humid, we could see storms develop and last into the morning hours. This is Monday morning, 6 a.m., some storms moving through. You wake up, you see those, you go, oh, it's going to be a horrible day. They clear out pretty quickly. By the afternoon, the sun is back out, and we see more storms develop by Monday evening. So you get the idea. They're not widespread. Not everybody's going to see rain. Scattered thunderstorms, by definition, means they only affect some people. When you see the chance of rain, that's the chance of running into those storms, not the chance that it's going to be heavy, severe, or long-lasting. It's just the chance of running into it. So when you see that, you see these scattered storms, they really are the afternoon and evening hours. We'll go into Monday night. Things will wane, and we'll go into early on the 4th of July. And again, this is where our guidance kind of stops. We should be hot and humid, but we'll watch storms developing back to the west. So let's go 48 hours into the future. It is hot. It is humid. We've got those afternoon storms. This is your typical summer pattern setting up. Let's talk about the temperatures briefly here. I'm going to throw them up on the map because it is pretty hot out there already. Here we are at 10 a.m. We've got some low 80s, but the big story, I think, is the dew points. Let's look at the dew point temperatures. We'll go back here, and I'll throw the dew point temperatures up. Pretty muggy. The good thing for the Western Carolinas, the dew points have mixed out a little bit. If they stay in the upper 60s, low 70s, I mean, that's not great, but it's probably going to keep us from heat advisory criteria. Here, though, the good old-fashioned I-95 corridor into areas, into the Midlands, and then the coastal plain, that's where the brutal heat indices are. In fact, let me turn off that. We'll look at the current heat index out there right now. This is the current heat index, already in the mid 80s here, but you see some heat indices already in the low to mid 90s this afternoon. And that's where we're starting to see, the potential for some really high heat indices across the area. And that's typically when we start to see, heat advisories. Once you get to about 105 for a heat index, that's when you tend to see heat advisories. I think in Charlotte, honestly, we're probably going to fall short of that, 103, 104. Not that that's cool, but it's probably just shy of heat advisory criteria. So just a heads up, it is going to be a steamy, steamy day, kind of our first real heat wave of the season. So please take it easy out there this afternoon. There's the heat advisories. You see, I just kind of shaded them in. Let me pause it. So these are all heat advisories. You can see they're kind of more for areas in eastern central North Carolina, then come up to the Charlotte area south to the northwest, probably not as hot. And again, on the edge of this, I think in here, you're probably going to be really marginal for it. Doesn't matter. It's still going to be hot, right? You see the heat advisories extending down into the south. These are all heat advisories in effect for today. So be safe out there. Have a great Sunday and watch out for those pop-up storms. They will be possible this afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, and again on the 4th.